here. Authentication key in the site 1 is Cisco. This is the first command. After that, we need to mention that which EID prefix expected to receiving from this site. For example, in the router config router Lisp site, I'm going to configure this command. EID prefix. I expect to receive this EID prefix from this site. For example, let me to configure here in the R1. I expect I receive the EID prefix of 192.168.10/24 from this site. This is the IP address of the EID of R2 advertising to R1. Okay, and also you need to configure this EID prefix in the R1. That's it. Then we have second site, or for example site 2. Okay, EID prefix that first authentication key is Cisco again, and then we expect to receive EID prefix of 192.168.20/24, and then we have the site 3. Okay, and we with the authentication key of Cisco, and we expect to receive EID prefix of 192.168.30/24. That's it. And then we should enable the mapping server function, router config router Lisp, for example site, and then exit, and here router config router again in the Lisp process. You should configure this command, IPv4 map server. IPv4 map server, look at here, exit IPv4 map server. Don't forget that I configure IPv4 ETR on the R2 and also IPv4 map server on the R1. Let me check the configuration until now. You can use this command, show IP Lisp, to see some basic information about the routers, starting from the R2. R2 do show IP Lisp. Look at here, the information that here we have about the R2 as the ETR. R2 is the ETR. Only the information that now we understand, I'm going to talk about that. Look at that. This router is ETR. As you can see, egress tunnel router is enabled, but ingress tunnel router is disabled. And after that, we know that for example, ITR maps server, the ETR map server is quad 1. I configured this map server, you know this. ETR map server is the quad 1. And for example, that's it. ETR, this is the ETR, and this is the map server. I configured only these two things. Database mapping, I will show you the database mapping. But for now, let me to check the R1, do show, okay, IP Lisp. R1 is the mapping server. Because of that, you know that ingress tunnel router and egress tunnel router are disabled in this router. But mapping server, as you can see here, is enabled on this server. This is so easy. Okay, now let me to show you about the size. You know that show IP Lisp is a useful command to monitoring anything about the Lisp. You can use this command in the ETR, also in the ITRs. I will talk about that. MS mapping server, and also mapping resolver. But we have another useful command, show Lisp site. You can use these commands only on the, for example, MS or mapping server. Look at here. In the MS, do show Lisp site. As you can see here, I configured 3 sites, site 1, site 2, and also site 3. Site 1's EID prefix is 192.168.10. Site 2 has this EID prefix, and site 3 has this EID prefix. And as you can see here, 10.122 means router 2, means this router. Look at here. Registered this prefix in the R1. And 10.133 registered this prefix in the R1, and also 10.144. Let me to show you. In capture, we can now find the LISP map notify. Look at, let me to filter only LISP packets. Look at here. This is the LISP. From the 10122 to the quad 1. This is the map register 10122 to the quad 1. As you can see, quad 1 sends 10 to 10122 map notify, and this means that I receive your packet. And after that, every 60 seconds, this registration should be again repeated. And because of that, again, map register message is received from the router 2, and then map notify message is was sent. And then in the, for example, router 1, again, show LISP site can show us that this last register counter every 60 seconds should be reset to 0, because every 60 seconds the routers of one of the routing locators for this EID should advertise the map register message. Look at site 2. Okay, after some second, now yes, now it's 0. Look at here, and this means that every 60 seconds this map registration process should be repeated. In R2, in the show IP Lisp, you can see that, for example, the information about the Lisp, but with the show Lisp site, you can check the Lisp site in the MS. For example, in R2 as an XDR, if you use the show Lisp site, you won't have any information, okay? Because in this site, we didn't configure the Lisp site registration information. Very good. This is the first things. Now, the R1 as the mapping server, as you saw, has the EID to RLOOK mapping. But how this EID to RLOOK mapping can help us to communication between the, for example, computer 1 and computer 2. Let me to show you. Here, assume that we have a packet, the RS in C1, okay? Anybody configure this command ping to the 192.168.210. This is the IP address of the router 2. You know that when you are using this command, the first things that should happen is that C1 should check its, for example, the IP address of destination, the destination IP with its IP address. After that, it can find that these packets should send to the outside of networks. Because of that, C1 should send this packet, should give this packet to the router 2 as the default gateway. Because of that, now we have an ICMP echo request, ICMP type 8, okay, received in the, for example, R2, ICMP type 8, the packets is given to the router 2. Don't forget the source IP is the IP address of the computer 1, and destination IP is the IP address of the computer 2, C1 to C2. And this is the source EID, and C2 is the destination EID. Let me to mention here. This is the IP address of the C1, okay, C1 IP is the source EID, source endpoint identifier. C2 IP is the destination EID, okay? These packets now is given to the router 2. Router 2 first should check this the destination of this packet with its routing table. Let me check the routing table of the router 2 in router 2 as the ETR, do show IP route. You know that we don't have any pass for the 192.168.210. Why? Because you know that this destination IP is not available in the routing locator space. Because of that, the next step after that R2 understand that this packet's destination is not this reside on the RLOOK space, is using the LISP. We have some details here, but I'm not going to delve all of the details. Only the important parts of the communication now is important for us. Because of that, for example, I'm not going to talk about the source IP or some other things that I will talk about in the future videos or in the future part of this video. Only I'm going to show you the main function, the most important parts of the communication process. Now, R2 knows that it can't send traffic to the destination directly because it doesn't have any route in the routing table. How R2 can send this traffic to the, for example,